Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of How to Draw Awesome Animals with your friends at Peppermint Narwhal. This is a video series where we teach how to draw animals in a fun and simple way while sharing facts about the species as we go along. So since July 15th is Arctic Sea Ice Day, we've selected the iconic polar bear as the animal that we'll be drawing today. Now the polar bear is of course its common name, and below that in parentheses you can see its scientific name, and that's Ursus maritimus. And basically what that stands for is bear of the sea. And the thing that's fascinating about the polar bear is it's the only bear species that is considered a marine mammal. And we'll talk about that a little more as we get into the drawing. Unfortunately, because they're so dependent on that sea ice in the ocean for their existence, right now, as we know, climate change is a problem and sea ice is melting, especially in the Arctic. So we certainly have no surprise that this species is listed right now as vulnerable, and we have some work to do conservation-wise. So let's go ahead and get ready to get our drawing going. As you can see, I'm going to be using pencil and paper as my drawing medium today. You're free to use what you would like. I like this because it's kind of easy and handy around the house. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to just put 2 dots on my page. And if you've been on our channel before, you know that I'm going to teach you this drawing method that's kind of like dot to dots. And of course, 2 dots and dot to dots is straightforward. It's a straight line. Now I also like to add a 3 dot sort of technique for when we draw a curved line. And I'll do that right now. So we've got our first dot here. We'll use this end dot. And then we'll put a dot up here. And we'll put a dot over there. 3 dots. And then I'm going to use that middle dot as kind of the arch of my curve. So I'm aiming at that and curving the line as I go. And there we go. That looks pretty good. All right, now we'll come back to this bottom dot that we did first. And we'll use that dot. And this time we're going to put a dot out here and a dot out here. So 3 dots, a little bit of a curved line here. And just like that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so there we go. We've got another curved line done. I'll go ahead and use this end dot here, and this time I'm just going to kind of extend that off a little bit for our second dot, and we'll just draw a straight line to continue that there, and that's fine. All right, now we're going to come down using, again, this end dot, and we'll put a dot down here, and we'll just draw a nice straight line there. That's looking pretty good. All right, so now we're going to use this bottom dot, and this time we're going to put a dot here. And we're actually going to connect these 3 dots here, this one that we originally did, so I'll just darken that one again. So there we go. And we're just going to make this nice curved line, and we're sort of completing what's going to be the nose of our polar bear. So there we go. All right, that looks fine. Now we're going to put a nostril on this guy, and I'm just going to do that by adding a little bit of a dot there. Polar bears have an excellent sense of smell. A lot of times you think of the bloodhound as, you know, a great dog with the best sense of smell, but you know, when it comes to smell, both bears certainly have bloodhounds beat, and polar bears are one of the best bears at smelling things and smelling things from a great distance. And that comes in pretty handy and important when you're out on sea ice and you've got to find seals, so you really need a great sense of smell. All right, so we got our nose here. We're gonna just put a dot right below the nose here, and we'll put a dot here, and then we'll put a dot here. So I got 3 dots there. Just gonna kind of make a curved line coming down and get a little bit of that muzzle there. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now from this dot here, we're going to put another dot here and another dot here. So again, 3 dots, see them there? And then we're just kind of connecting them with a nice curved line. And this is actually we're starting to work on the mouth, and we've got a nice happy smile here. So we'll go ahead and put a little dimple smile here. Just a little curved line. You've seen it if you've been on previous episodes, but otherwise just kind of like a U shape there. And there we go. We've got that put in place. Now we'll go ahead and continue down for the actual rest of the mouth. So we're going to start right at this kind of dimple curve center point. We'll use that dot, we'll put a dot there, and then we'll put a dot here, and then a dot here. So it's kind of hard to see this one, but there's starting in that center point there, and then continuing it down. And again, when you're putting your dots on, you can go either direction. Sometimes you'll see me go one direction and back and forth just to darken the line. I start off maybe a little lighter. But again, you can start it either way as long as you're just, following the curve or straight line that I'm recommending. All right, so that looks really nice. We've got a nice happy smile starting to come together. I'm just gonna kind of close this up, and I'm just gonna do this by making a very short, low curve line. Just kind of connects up to there. So just a nice curved line there. Didn't really have a lot of room for dots, so I just drew it there. All right, let's put the tongue on, and we'll go ahead and do that by, if you've seen on past episodes, it almost looks like a bird flying when you first draw birds when you're a kid, just like, or a little top of a heart. So I just sort of tuck that in there, and I'm gonna leave that uncolored, but I'm gonna color in the other negative space. And by darkening the rest of the mouth, it's gonna make that tongue stand out a little bit. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so there we've got the start of our mouth there. So this little arch of the nose here, sometimes polar bears are referred to as having a Roman nose because they sort of have this sort of bridge on the nose. So we kind of captured that subtly there. All right, let's go ahead and put on the, let's go ahead and put the eyes on. We'll start by putting two ovals. One we're gonna put right about here. So I'll just sort of draw an oval there. And then the other one, I'm just gonna kind of tuck a little bit in this corner behind the eye. So I'm not gonna draw a full eye there, full oval. I just sort of tucked it in that corner there. And then I'm gonna color those in, again, leaving a little bit of an inner oval circle that I'm not gonna color, and that'll give a little bit of highlight to the eye there. So by leaving that white, that looks great. All right, now we're going to come back to the lower part of the jaw here. And we're going to put a dot right below the mouth there. We'll put another one here and another one there. And we're just gonna kind of make a curved line. We got the 3-dot curved line thing going there. And then from this point here, this middle dot, we're actually then going to use that one this time. And we're gonna put a dot here and a dot there. And we're just gonna sort of make another curved line here to complete the back of the head there. So that looks great. All right, so, and then over here, I'm just gonna kind of seam this up. It's a small area. I'm not gonna put some dots, but I'll just sort of make a curved line and just kind of connect that area that was open over on that side. All right, let's go ahead and put some ears on this polar bear. So we'll go ahead and do that by putting a dot. I'm gonna use this end dot as a middle dot. So I'm just gonna put the dot here and a dot there. So there we go, 3 dots. And there we go, we got a sort of a nice start of the ear. And from the top of the ear, I'm gonna use that dot and then just make a straight line and extend it a little bit. And then from this end dot, I'm gonna put, again, 3 dots and bring it back. And there we go. Polar bears have small ears in proportion to their heads. Something like the Asiatic black bear would have much larger ears, kind of almost big ears in relationship to his head. The reason that polar bears have small ears is because they live in an Arctic climate. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Let me just put a little bit of an internal ear here. So we'll just do that by kind of making a nice upside down U shape inside of here. There we go. And then we'll just kind of make some hair scratches there to indicate some hair. So again, small ears are helpful because it keeps the heat closer to your body. Some animals, like an elephant, uses big ears to cool itself by pumping blood into those big ears and then waving them back and forth. If you've ever seen an elephant do that, it's actually a method of cooling their blood so that when it returns to the core of their body, it feels a relief from the heat. Whereas polar bears, they don't really need to, get rid of heat. In fact, they want to keep heat because they live in a very cold place. So that's why small ears are more helpful in this respect. On the top of the head, I'm putting a dot, and I'm going to put another dot up here, and I'm going to sort of put a dot out here, and we're just putting the other ear that's kind of off the behind the head on the other side, but you're seeing a little bit of it. And then I'm going to, from the top of this dot, use this dot, and there looks like I got a dot already there on the top of the head there. So I'll just complete that. I don't need to show the inner ear side because we're actually seeing the back side of it on this drawing here. All right, that looks pretty good. We've got our polar bear head pretty much completed. Now we're going to start it behind the ear here, and we're going to put a line, straight line here with 2 dots, just kind of extend that neck area. So there we go, we got that. That looks good. All right, now we're going to come back around to the front side of our bear, and right under the chin there, I'll put a dot or use this dot that's kind of in that area. So I'll go ahead and then put a dot here and a dot here. And I'll just start to curve this down here. That looks good. All right, that's great. So now we're going to come back up to the top here, and there's a big sort of shoulder girdle here that we're going to kind of count for. So we're going to put a dot up here and a dot here, and we're just going to kind of make this nice curving line here. There we go. And that's going to kind of count for that big shoulder girdle coming off the neck. And then from we're going to put the dot a little bit above this, not use the end line. We'll put a dot there, and then we'll put a dot kind of here, and we'll put a dot over here. So a big curve sort of shape here. And that's going to get that sort of, backside of our polar bear there. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to kind of from this dot here come down a little bit. I'll just make a subtle curve here. There we go, just kind of bringing that back down. All right, that's looking pretty good. This time we're going to come back to this front side, and we're going to put on the forelegs here. So we'll start with one of the forelegs. Now I'm going to put a dot right about here, and I'm going to put a dot here, and then I'm going to put a dot right about there. Okay, so 3 dots, very subtle curve. And there we go. We've got that sort of start of the leg there. All right, so now we're going to put on the foot or the feet, and we'll start with one of the foot on this leg that we're working on. So to do that, we're going to just start by putting a little straight line. So right off the bottom there, simple straight line. And then we're going to, now from this dot, we're going to use that one. We're going to put a dot up here and a dot there, and we're going to make this sort of curving line here. That looks pretty good. And then from this line here, this dot here, we'll just put a dot maybe right up about down there, and just draw a straight line there to kind of continue that off. Now from this foot here, we're going to start to put on some digits here. These are basically done. I'm not going to use the dots here. I'm just going to kind of draw them. They're almost like, we've seen them before in past episodes. They're like upside down J's, or slightly like a J, angling J. So angling upside down J. So I got one there, got another one there. You won't see all of them because some of them will be sort of covered up, but we'll put a few. There we go. And then I'm just going to kind of offset them and bring them in there and kind of show that, he's got some toes there. All right, and then from this last toe, we'll put a dot here and a dot here, and we'll just draw a straight line. Now, polar bears have very big feet. Their feet are in a frame of reference that you might be able to find familiar, is like a big dinner plate, like a nice dinner serving plate. So those big feet are definitely an adaptation advantage as well. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me get the back side of this foot going here. So from this dot here, we'll put a dot here and a dot here. I'll just kind of round this off with a curve there. That looks good. And then from this dot here, we'll put a dot here and a dot here, and we'll just kind of curve this out. Oops, got some dogs in the background and they decided to chime in here. So, okay, so they're reminding me that I need to talk about this big foot. So the big foot, as I come back to it, is an adaptation for being on the Arctic ice. Animals that have to walk on ice, it's very slippery, so having larger feet are a very helpful form of stabilization. So you'll notice that animals in the Arctic actually tend to have bigger feet, which help them manage walking around on slippery, icy surfaces and keeping your stability and balance so you don't slip. So, okay, so we're coming back to complete this. Thank you, puppies, for reminding me of that little fact. I'll go ahead and continue this drawing here by putting 3 dots just like so. And there we go, we got a curved line, so I'll just kind of bring this back here, just like that. It looks good. Okay, so now we're going to come to the hind leg, and the hind leg is another massive leg here, this is a big, strong animal. So we're going to put a dot here. And if you didn't know, the polar bear is the largest bear species. They're quite large. They can actually, if a healthy full male adult polar bear was standing, it could actually touch the bottom of a basketball hoop. So it would be, that's significantly tall in terms of their standing position. And polar bears can stand. Of course, they walk mostly around on all fours, but at times when they're showing dominance or when they're standing up to get a better view of a greater distance, that's when you'll see them in that sort of two-legged mode. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we've got that nice big back leg started. We'll go ahead and from this dot here, put a dot here and a dot here, and we're just going to kind of curve this down nicely like that, and we're working our way back to another foot. I'm going to come back to the back side of this, and I'm just going to use this dot that we had left over here. I'm going to put a dot out here and a dot out here, and a subtle curve there, just kind of bringing that down from the back side of the leg. Okay, so we'll come back to finishing off our back foot here. So I'll put a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here. Subtle little rounded curve, similar to what we did over here. In fact, this back foot's gonna look very similar. So we've got that sort of rounded curve there. I'll come back to this dot. I'll put a dot over here for a straight line. That looks pretty good. And then of course, we're gonna make that sort of rounded curve for the curled up toes there. So there we go, we've got 3 dots there. Kind of bring that down. And then as I said, I'm gonna start to do those, you know, offset sort of angled, slightly angled J's shapes. There we go. Just get a few of those in there and then kind of just connect them with sort of straight lines, offsetting them. Just gonna get some of those toes, and then I'll put a dot here and a dot here. And again, we'll just kind of connect that with the straight line. Okay, that's looking nice. Let's go ahead and put a tail on this guy. And much like the ears, the tail is quite small and it's designed to not lose heat by staying close to the body. So some Arctic animals have big tails and they're very fluffy, like an Arctic fox or a wolf, and they use those to wrap around themselves when they lie down in the cold. Whereas a polar bear doesn't really need that or do that. They have a thick layer of you know, fat on their body that sort of helps with that. So they're much more reliant on that than a big furry tail. So their tail is small. We're just going to kind of make like a little curve shape here at the end, almost like a small little bunny tail, just a very small tail that they have at the back side. All right, let's go ahead and put the belly on this guy. To do that, it's just going to be one big sort of curved line. We'll put a dot here, and a dot here, and we'll just sort of, you know, bring that together with a nice curve. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of mimic these legs here for the other side of the body here. Again, they're partly covered, but basically I'm not going to use the dots because we kind of have those to show you what I'm going to be drawing. So I'm just sort of mirroring them, so you can kind of just see that little line there. So I'm going to mirror that, but I'm not going to, you know, obviously part of it's behind this neck region. So I'll just put it about here, slightly offset. Again, similar, just coming down just like that one did. Straightening it out. And then rounding off the toe areas, putting in my digits. You can add claws here if you want. I'm just putting the toes on. They definitely have claws. Sometimes they're not as visible because of the fur that they would have. They have very sharp claws. They're almost hook-like, and they're designed in that way to be to grab seals. So when they get to a seal air hole, they'll wait there for quite a long time. I'll do this other leg here. And as they're waiting, once they sort of see the seal come up for air or is near, then they use those sharp claws to hopefully catch the seal and then pull him right out of the air hole. If he can pull that off, he'll be able to eat that day. And again, polar bears are reliant on the sea ice to feed. They need sea ice to eat. If there's no ice, they spend their time on land essentially starving. So they have this window when it's cold and the ice is formed when they can go out and hunt Arctic seals, or ice seals as they're called. Without that, they don't really have anything to eat. Their primary prey is ring seals or other ice seals, and they need those seals to eat because they eat the fat of that seal. In fact, they almost exclusively eat the fat of the seal, and that's such a heavy fat calorie diet that it allows them to sort of bulk up during the ice time and then deal with, like July 15th, today would be when that sea ice originally started to break up. Unfortunately, now that's breaking up even earlier, and polar bears are getting less time to feed and more time to wait on land and to starve. And obviously, you can imagine if somebody was taking your usual lunchtime and pushing it back, a significant amount of time, that's going to make you very uncomfortable and you'll start to be quite hungry. And polar bears have nothing else to eat, so they really have a problem with that. So that's why that sea ice is so important to polar bears. And hopefully you've completed your polar bear drawing here and you're pretty happy with it. We think it turned out great. We'd love to see yours as well. Remember, you can share that with us using the hashtag #MintySketch. And again, if you want to post that online using the hashtag, that way we can check it out. If you need your parents' help, please feel free to get that. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more from this channel, you can subscribe and get updates on any new posts. And we hope to see you back soon here in another episode of How to Draw Awesome Animals with your friends at Peppermint Narwhal.